Tonight on CFTK-TV, how those in the Northwest can protect themselves from fires this summer. The Hudson's Bay Company gives severance to its upper management workforce, and Donald Trump signs off on auto tariffs on Canada.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Hello, I'm Damian Smith, and thank you for joining us here on CFTK-TV. We begin tonight with the news on the tariffs, where U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to call Prime Minister Carney within the next 24 hours or so. Yesterday, Trump signed off on tariffs in the auto sector, which are expected to start just 1 week from now. Adrian Gabriel has our first story of the day.
Crushing news for assembly lines that stretch across the Canadian auto industry.
What we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States.
With the stroke of a Sharpie in the Oval Office, the executive tariff order that Trump is calling permanent was signed. While auto parts are receiving a 1-month exemption, it doesn't appear that vehicles built under the terms of the Canada-US-Mexico agreement will be spared.
And this is a direct attack.
Previously, Prime Minister Mark Carney has vowed not to sit down with Donald Trump until Canada's sovereignty is respected by the U.S. president. Following this afternoon's announcement, Carney appears to have changed his stance.
It would be appropriate that the President and I speak, given the action that he's taken. I'm sure that will happen soon.
Trump's economic roller coaster catching up with each of the federal leaders on the campaign trail.
We know that Trump is an arsonist. He's literally burning down his own country's jobs and economy and ours as well.
Now is the time to take back control and relaunch our economy so that we can confront the president's unjustified threats and tariffs.
The president's on-again, off-again trade war has caused months of turbulence across the global auto industry, with many in Canada now bracing for mass layoffs.
This will have a direct impact on Canadian jobs, which means we must do everything possible as a country to defend Canadian workers and to defend their jobs.
It's great.
Just hours before Trump's announcement today, standing near the base of the Ambassador Bridge, where roughly $50 million worth of auto parts travel between the U.S. and Canada each day, Carney outlined his plan to fortify the country's vehicle manufacturing industry by creating a $2 billion fund to build out a Canadian supply chain, develop an all-in Canada network for component parts, maximize Canada's steel, aluminum, and critical minerals, while leveraging government funding to prioritize and procure Canadian-built vehicles. Back in Washington, Trump is calling this latest move very modest. Canadian federal party leaders across the political spectrum couldn't disagree more. The auto tariffs come into effect next Thursday. Donald Trump expects them to generate $100 billion in revenue, though many warn it could come at the expense of the American public, who will be paying an average of $12,000 more per vehicle, driving up inflation even further in the United States.
And moving on to local news, the City of Terrace fire chief spoke on ways that people can keep themselves safe from the ever-present threat of fires. Here's Kale Madsen of CFTK-TV with the report.
With the spring and summer seasons nearing at rapid speed, the threat of both house and wildfires is set to increase a fair bit considering how hot the weather can get at times. And in the City of Terrace, the local fire chief has some useful tips for residents to consider when working on preventing fires from starting.
So some of the most basic things that we want to let the residents of City of Terrace know is fire safety planning. So that starts in the home. It starts with your kids. It talks about, the muster points, where to go in case of a fire, what to do in case of a fire. A fire breaks out in your room, simple things like closing the door as you leave the residence, going to a predetermined spot in the front yard, in the backyard, wherever that spot is for your family, where you guys can all collect and be together. So when the fire department comes, they can identify how many people are in the home, if there's any more additional people in the home, and what we can do to ensure that your home is kept safe in case of a fire.
Another practice that the fire department encourages is testing your smoke alarm on a monthly basis by ensuring that its batteries are intact and that it goes off when prompted. Advice like this is of even greater importance since there has also been a few house fires that have taken place over the past couple of weeks, and the cause of most of them has shown another fire hazard to watch out for.
Predominantly, the cause of these fires has been electrical in nature, so faulty electrical. So some of the older homes, we're seeing the electrical wires that are catching, combusting, and then we're having the result of a home fire.
Keeping with the subject of those older homes, some of which are said to have baseboard heating, people are recommended not to place their furniture up against said heating or have any loose clothing up against a heat source. Anyone looking for more fire prevention tips can attend an open to the public presentation on the subject that is taking place at Knox United Church on April 30th, starting at 7 p.m. and ending at 8 p.m. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin.
And staying in Terrace, the city saw their strategic plan that's covering the years from 2023 to 2026 receive an update in February by the mayor and city council. This plan provides areas of work for city staff to focus on utilizing all of their resources in the most efficient manner possible and to make sure to headline pressing initiatives that the city needs to get done. Some of those areas outlined in the plan include community wellness, managing assets responsibly, developing economically, having cultural awareness, as well as proper organizational strength. Now over to Prince Rupert, where we have a few updates from their city council as well. There were 3 total presentations, and one of them saw the city's staff provide a brief update on what was going on with some developing design work in Mariners Park. There was also a presentation from Community Futures, who were alongside several local business owners in order to request that council can help them address the shortage in the local workforce. The shortage mainly stems from the recent changes in immigration policy, and several of those businesses relied on both student and foreign workers, with that number reportedly being around 30 to 50%. Now on to an election story now over in Quebec City, where Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has now announced some changes that he would like to make for seniors in the workplace. Here's Abigail Beeman, who was on site.
These seniors want to keep working.
I like work, I'm healthy.
But are worried about finances.
Tax is very high.
They were happy to hear Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's ideas that would provide incentives to keep seniors who want to stay on the job.
Seniors deserve security.
Poilievre says working seniors will be able to earn an additional $10,000 tax-free. He'll extend the deadline to close your RRSP from 71 to age 73.
We've been advocating for this for almost 2 decades. This is the first time we've seen it introduced in a federal election. So this is a really positive move for seniors.
And he commits to maintaining the age people can access government benefits, 65.
Now he's flip-flopping on it, and we know that is a lie. He is going to attack seniors the way he did before.
New Democrats are calling out Poilievre for his past support of a higher retirement age.
65 to 67, a 2-year increase over a gradual period.
Poilievre wouldn't directly address the reversal, but insisted
the retirement age will remain 65.
While spending Wednesday in and around Quebec City, Conservatives are also targeting voters more broadly, releasing a 2-page Quebec-specific platform. The party has struggled to make inroads in the province in the last few elections, currently holding 9 seats with 78 up for grabs. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Quebec City.
Coming up next, in the forestry sector, protesters are disappointed with the Old Growth Strategic Review. Welcome back to CFTK-TV. Well, down in Langford, the BC's forestry sector is now seeing some pushback on the Old Growth Strategic Review, which was released 5 years ago. Anna McMillan has the story from south of the province.
Okay, thumbs up works. A cause familiar to many islanders landed at the constituency office of BC's Minister of Forests this morning.
We're here today outside of Minister Ravi Parmar's office to call on him to stop waffling on his government's old growth promises.
Langford 1 Defuca MLA Ravi Parmar was sworn in as the Minister of Forests in November.
We're targeting specifically the Old Growth Strategic Review, which was conducted in 2020.
The review resulted in 14 recommendations, including engaging Indigenous leaders and deferring development in old forests where biodiversity loss is a major risk.
A lot of these promises were made 5 years ago, and we still have seen very little action on the ground. I go out all the time into these forests, and they're getting clear cut still.
On its website, the province says work has begun on every recommendation, but some will take years to implement.
We're looking to reclaim a lot of our traditional lands, and one of the biggest obstacles right now is industry.
Randy Cook is hereditary chief of Montaguila First Nation near Sayward.
What does reconciliation actually mean if we're not going to be working together and protecting Mother Earth?
Parmar says he worries about the livelihoods of forestry workers. In a statement, he says, "I spent the last week meeting with and listening to workers, First Nations, business leaders, community leaders, and local residents across BC. I remain committed to working with everyone to ensure the long-term health of our forests and the people who depend on them."
What we can do is increase milling opportunities, increase jobs in communities, and keep those values here at home rather than exporting them.
In January, the province extended a logging deferral in Fairy Creek until the end of 2026 at the request of Pacheedaht First Nation, whose territories encompass the area. Anna McMillan, CTV News.
And before we move on to the weather forecast, another dust advisory has been put into place in the Bulkley Valley. Smithers Advisory is back on again as they join Burns Lake, according to the BC Ministry of Environment and Parks. Just like Burns Lake, Smithers is under the advisory due to high concentrations of coarse particulate matter. Now we move on to your local weather forecast for tonight and for the week ahead. Tonight on the North Coast, it should be mainly cloudy with a low of +5 degrees. And for this week's forecast, expect to see double-digit temperatures for the next 4 days with good amounts of sun other than Saturday, which should have some showers that day. The high will be 13 degrees tomorrow and the low should be 7 degrees on Tuesday, but that is subject to change. And tonight in Terrace and Kitimat should be mainly cloudy with winds coming from the north at 30 kilometers per hour, increasing to 50 later in the evening. The low should be +3 tonight. The next 4 days should be sunny overall with an increase in temperature starting on Sunday. Showers may come back on Tuesday with a drop in temperature as well. The high should be 14 degrees on Sunday and Monday, while the low should be -2 tomorrow night. Tonight in the Bulkley Valley should have periods of snow ending overnight, followed by cloudy conditions with a 40% chance of flurries. The snowfall amount should be at around 4 centimeters over the southern sections. The winds should be coming from the east at 20 kilometers per hour, increasing to 40 at times. The low should be -5 with a wind chill of -12 overnight. This week should see cooler temperatures tomorrow with the chance of flurries, followed by 3 days of sun starting on the weekend, then back to showers on Tuesday afternoon. And the high should be 13 degrees on Sunday and the low should be -5 on Saturday evening. And now we move on to your roadside report from around the Northwest. For additional updates, check out drybc.ca. Highway 16 has utility work west of Skeena, road sweeping from Hazelton to Evelyn, and utility work in Endako and Willowvale. Highway 37 has roadside brushing and slippery sections from Kitimat to Porter Landing, as well as compact snow from Porter Landing to the Yukon border. Highway 37A has a vehicle recovery at Bear Glacier Provincial Park in slippery sections. The Nisga'a Highway has fog patches and Telegraph Creek Road has muddy sections. And these are what the cameras were looking like from around the Northwest. Still to come, the Hudson's Bay Company hands a bonus to upper management, but not to those working in the stores. Hello again. Well, a rebate of over $100 will be given to drivers around the province from the Insurance Corporation of British Columbia. However, there happens to be some who believe that this is an example of poor organization. Here's Martin McMahon with more.
It has become an annual tradition. For the 5th time in a row, ICBC is giving a rebate to drivers.
So it is good news. Drivers here in British Columbia are receiving a rebate of $110. And the other part of the good news is that basic rates will remain frozen until 2026.
The NDP government says better than expected investment returns allow the Crown Corporation to give a little back to customers.
Yeah, that is a big part. Number one, the drivers. Number two, the wise investments that ICBC has made corporately.
But given these consistent rebates, some suggest it would be more efficient to lower rates on the front end.
From my opinion, there is obviously an efficiency problem happening. I would much rather see this come off the rates at the beginning as opposed to a rebate going back out to people, because obviously there's costs associated with doing a rebate back to people.
This is the 5th rebate ICBC has sent out since February 2021. That shows that they're overcharging British Columbians.
We asked people in Vancouver for their view.
It sure sounds like with that frequent of rebates in recent years that their model of calculating needs some tuning up.
I prefer the cost being lowered at the front end.
So I think it's more political than practical.
Even from talking to people on the street, they're suggesting to me that they'd rather have savings on the front end rather than paying into it and then having to wait for a refund. And it seems as if 5 years in a row, I mean, is there something off in the forecasting here for ICBC in terms of what the financial outlook is going to look like each year?
No, I think it is an indicator of how well ICB has been doing.
For most drivers, they'll get the rebate by the end of next month, unless they paid by check, which could mean waiting for the cash until May. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
And the Hudson's Bay Company will not be giving its retail associates any severances after the shutdown, and instead will be handing the higher-ranked manager positions a portion of the bonus. Here is Heather Wright of CTV News.
More than 9,000 Hudson's Bay employees will soon be out of work and will receive no severance from the company once it closes the majority of its stores.
It's not much different from what we hear a lot of the time, and it's very unfortunate.
But court documents show the retailer will pay executives and some managers roughly $3 million in retention bonuses. A decision not sitting well with some shoppers.
Well, I don't think that's right or fair.
But experts say these types of bonuses are not uncommon and call them a necessary evil.
The natural inclination of most employees when they see that the ship is sinking is going to be to jump ship and to try and find jobs elsewhere. And the company really needs them, of course, to stay throughout the liquidation period to ensure that the liquidation is successful.
So far, the liquidation sales happening at all but 6 HBC stores have been strong. And today, the company was in court asking the judge to give it until April 7th to try and save those remaining locations. It's a tight timeline that some stakeholders oppose. RioCan, which owns or co-owns roughly a dozen stores with the Bay, argues the April deadline will hinder the search for potential investors or buyers, while lawyers representing some of the soon-to-be terminated employees say the restructuring agreement will make it nearly impossible for them to retain legal counsel and could jeopardize their pension, benefits, and long-term disability supports. The case is expected back in court tomorrow. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
And now we take a look at the stock market, where we have a mix of everything today. The Canadian dollar is down 0.2 cents. The price of gold is up $38.60. Oil is up 27 cents. Natural gas is up 6 cents, and aluminum is down $6.50. In Toronto, the TSX has had no change. The Venture Index is up 2.36. In New York, NASDAQ is down about 95, and the Dow Jones is down 155. Still ahead, the Toronto Blue Jays host their home opener for the 2025 season. Welcome back to our final segment. Well, 3 years ago in Manitoba, 4 women were murdered by a serial killer named Jeremy Skibitsky. 3 of them were identified, with one of them unnamed at the time and called Buffalo Woman. Yesterday, the identity of this woman was released. Danton Unger of CTV News has this story.
3 years after she went missing in downtown Winnipeg, police have now confirmed Ashley Shingoose was one of the 4 women murdered by convicted serial killer Jeremy Skibitsky.
Your daughter deserved to be named, and we offer our condolences.
Skibitsky was convicted last year in the deaths of Rebecca Contois, Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, and an unidentified victim given the name Mashkure Bezeki Ekwi, or Buffalo Woman. Her true identity was unknown until now.
We were able to confirm the identity of Buffalo Woman as that of Ashley Christine Shingoose.
Police say investigators interviewed Skibitsky behind bars, identifying a new piece of clothing from his apartment that belonged to Buffalo Woman. It was sent for DNA testing, which confirmed the identity. Shingoose has been missing since she was last seen in downtown Winnipeg in March 2022. And now, police believe her remains are somewhere in the Brady landfill.
I promise you that we are going to search the Brady landfill for your daughter.
That commitment to search was echoed by the Winnipeg Police and the City of Winnipeg.
We will make every effort to bring her home.
This news has left Ashley's home community of St. Teresa Point heartbroken.
But at the same time, we welcome the news that there is a light at the end.
Chief Raymond Flett shared this statement from Ashley's mother.
I need to bring her home. I need that closure. It's been too long. Enough. Search the landfill as soon as possible.
Danton Unger, CTV News, Winnipeg.
And Canada's lone team in the MLB is now preparing for its home opener set to start today. Here's Mike Walker in Toronto, who has our final story of the day.
One last workout ahead of opening day. The Toronto Blue Jays fielding a team they believe will be a contender.
We have a group of players that are here to win, and that's all we talk about, and that's a special thing.
Looking to rebound from a disappointing 2024 campaign that saw the Jays start with high expectations, but finish last in the AL East.
You want to make the postseason, and you want to do better than we have in the postseason.
I think we are in a good position.
Jose Barrios will be making his 3rd opening day start for the Jays.
Obviously, last year was a tough year. But we have a lot of situations like, injuries, hurt. It's time to go out there and execute, compete, and win a lot of ball games.
This season features 8 new players, including 3-time Cy Young winner Max Scherzer, who debuts on Saturday, second baseman Andres Jimenez, outfielder Anthony Santander, who the Jays hope will be another strong bat. He belted 44 home runs last season. And in the bullpen, Jeff Hoffman, who manager John Schneider confirmed today will be the club's closer.
The thing we've struggled to do the last couple of years at a high level is score runs. So I think that is where we feel like there's opportunity to be better this year.
But the season may be overshadowed by free agency. Both Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. are in the final year of their contracts. This could be their last season together. The Jays and Vladdy are yet to agree to an extension. The Jays GM remains hopeful.
And whether that happens during the season or via free agency, we'll stay open and never close any doors.
Feel very, very excited about the contract, but my main goal for now is just to win in the playoffs every year.
The Blue Jays will kick off the season with a 7-game stretch here at home, starting tomorrow afternoon against their division rivals, the Baltimore Orioles. Mike Walker, CTV News, Toronto.
That'll be all for the cast tonight. Thank you very much for watching and have a good evening.